Released in late 2023, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 was a promising but ultimately frustrating, buggy, and visually lackluster effort from developer Konami. I'm glad to say though that some progress has been made in the 16 months since, with Update 2.0 taking aim at several key issues on console and PC. It's great news because it's a project well worth salvaging, being an all-in-one package containing 7 core games in the series with some beautifully presented extras. Today then, I'm focusing on the Metal Gear Solid trilogy, the more demanding full 3D entries that first released on PlayStation 1 and 2, since these 3 games are really where a bulk of the problems arose in this collection. So just what has changed, and is the Master Collection now the definitive way to play each? Or are PC mods, as was the case at its launch, still a necessity to some degree? Let's find out. Let's jump straight to the most pressing issue, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3's image quality. The Master Collection uses the same codebase as the HD Collection as released by Bluepoint for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 back in 2011. While this was an excellent port for its time, the gripe is that the Master Collection continued to run these games at the same native 720p resolution, even on PS5, Series X and S. Scaled up to the 4K displays of today, the result was rough, with heavy aliasing on show. Worse still, the PC version also ran at 720p with no graphics menu to tweak either of these games' visual settings. With Update 2.0, however, which arrived in late 2024 on PC and console, Konami addresses this to an extent. MGS2 and 3 each now offer settings in their front-end launchers, letting us push the internal resolution up to 1080p. This is followed by a separate upscaling option where AMD's FSR is understood to be at work scaling that base image to a 1080p, 1440p or 4K target. And finally, there's a movie setting for both MGS2 and 3, letting us access a high-resolution mode. This mode affects every pre-rendered cutscene in both games, where a form of AI upscaling is applied to the original encode for a crisper, cleaner result. With all 3 of these settings boosted, the native 1080p rendering, the 4K upscaling, and the high-resolution movies, Konami calls this the adjusted mode, while all the original settings are still here if you wish to use them. All told, it is a messy solution and not terribly well communicated, but the adjusted mode does have a positive impact. Taking PS5 in example, and this applies equally to Series X, the new adjusted preset minimizes stair-stepping, the pixel crawl, across the hard, geometric lines of MGS2's big shell area. Visual noise is still far from eradicated here, and you'll still easily catch aliasing on those bright, overhanging lamps or door outlines, but at least the jump from 720p to 1080p creates a finer gradient to those steps. Just as importantly perhaps, Patch 2.0's superior 4K upscale results in greater clarity across the scene. The distant signs and metal railings of MGS2's oil rig are more cleanly defined, and, likewise, it resolves Metal Gear Solid 3's dense forest areas with a sharper image. Again, visual noise is still evident, especially using the free camera to look directly ahead in MGS3, but it is an improvement overall. The situation on PS5 is a net positive then, but the obvious gripe is that we should be getting a native 4K from what's essentially a 2001 PlayStation 2 title. Modern consoles, and certainly PC, have more than enough GPU horsepower to make a true 4K a reality, and, indeed, it's been possible since the collection's launch on PC thanks to mods. More on the state of the PC mods in a minute. Also a frustration is that the PC, Xbox Series X and S versions all continue to run with blurry, low-quality texture filtering. For example, Series X here uses low-grade anisotropic filtering in MGS2 and 3, resulting in a visible smearing to floor detail viewed at a tight angle. It's especially glaring in MGS3 in fact, given it uses more complex texture maps and shaders across the ground. It means that the original Xbox 360 HD collection still has the advantage of using 16 times anisotropic filtering when played via backcompat on a Series X console, though obviously it does miss out on the higher native 1080p resolution of the Master Collection today. The new movie setting is also curious. Looking at PS5 once more, it affects the pre-rendered cutscenes alone, which are a rarity given MGS2 and 3's typical focus on in-engine cinematics. Still, the boost is clear to see in both games' main menu attract sequences or any old archival footage that might pop up, especially so if we freeze frame and zoom in to counter YouTube's compression somewhat. The clarity of text is sharper, macro blocking is minimized, and there's a crisper resolve all round to find patterns. It may not be to everyone's taste, but Konami is clearly working from a low resolution source meant for the PS2 era, and in that respect, I'm glad we now have an option at least to clean them up. Keeping the focus on MGS2 and 3, the Nintendo Switch version is improved as well. Alas, we do not get the upscaling option seen on other platforms, and so Switch still runs at a native 720p resolution here. It also appears to run with practically no anti-aliasing in sight, and lacks texture filtering altogether, which creates an all-round noisier, flicker-prone image while docked to a larger display. The main change though is in frame rate performance. Konami promised that it would address the lurches in Switch's frame rate in MGS2 especially, and patch 2.0 does help here. Compared to the launch build, in-engine cutscenes featuring a long view of the big shell get a boost by 2 to 5 FPS on the new update. Sub 30 FPS drops sadly do remain, even on the latest patch, but it is progress. It's worth noting that some cutscenes use an intentional 15 FPS cap for effect, which is true on all platforms, and these stay exactly the same on the new patch on Switch regardless. It's good news for Switch, and yet it is a massive disappointment overall. We're still struggling to always lock at 30 frames per second in MGS2, which is a surprise given that it ran at 60 FPS on PlayStation 2 originally 24 years ago. Turning to the PC version next, this remains a no-frills release with a bare-bones graphics menu. It's without doubt better on patch 2.0, but not to the standard you'd really expect of a modern PC release. In terms of Konami's official options, we now have a native resolution setting that goes to 1080p highest, just as with PS5 and Series X, and the very same upscaling options to 4K. MGS2 and 3 benefit from added keyboard and mouse controls at least, but as far as graphics settings go, this is all we're really getting here. There's no way to set a custom resolution like 4K or 1440p, there's still no ultra-wide support, and texture filtering is woefully low quality out of the box on PC. And yet, despite the huge disappointment here, the PC version still has the greatest potential to deliver the best experience for MGS2 and 3 with some extra tinkering. Specifically, user-made mods transform the Master Collection in myriad ways. Compared to Konami's default patch 2.0 experience, the boost in clarity easily justifies the legwork to get all of these mods running. If you're interested in trying this out yourself, the first port of call is the MGS HD Fix mod by author Ephevis. This adds the ability to render natively at any custom resolution with ultra-wide support, and even bundles in a string of bug fixes for good measure. Achieving a boost to a true native 4K in this example is transformative on its own, especially across MGS3's busy jungles. As an extra bonus, I've also added in an AI upscaled textures mod, courtesy of author LickMix. This, in effect, boosts assets resolution by 4 times, which combines beautifully with Snake Eater's environments at 4K. With both of these mods in place, this is the best Metal Gear Solid 3 experience in my eyes, though the catalogue of mods available beyond this is huge and still growing. A final word on the original 1998 Metal Gear Solid. Handled by developer M2 for the Master Collection, this is in fact updated to patch 1.5 as of publishing this video. It remains a PS1 emulation effort, running at the original 240p resolution and 30 FPS target, or 25 on the PAL releases, but we do now have more video options than at launch. To start, the bilinear blur filter is now available as a smoothing toggle, and disabling it produces a much crisper picture today. We have 3 scaling options: full screen, pixel perfect, and 16:9, plus a new scanline filter, which helps blend the game's low resolution image and assets. It suits Metal Gear Solid's dark aesthetic, but also inevitably darkens the image. My final point relates to the game's controls, because previously M2 only allowed for movement in cardinal directions, up, down, left, and right. As of the latest patch though, full 360-degree analog movement is reinstated, allowing for finer control of Snake's run through Shadow Moses, albeit with a noticeable lingering hint of input lag in this release. For the most part, it's a move in the right direction for MGS1 then, but by being anchored to the PS1's technical limits in frame rate and resolution, it's playing it very safe. The Master Collection is in a much better place with patch 2.0 installed, but the shortcomings are still frustrating. The texture filtering issue on Xbox consoles is not solved for MGS2 or 3 at all, while console users and PC only get a resolution boost to a native 1080p at best. Even so, the best way to play the collection by a good margin is still on PC. Thanks to the hard work of the mod community, it's possible to enhance these games with custom resolutions, improved textures, and even added bug fixes. With all that being said, Konami's stock settings still provide one of the better ways to enjoy the series. If you're looking at the console space, the PS5 version avoids the texture filtering issue at least, and it's a recommendation there, if mainly for the convenience of having all these games in one place. As a celebration of Konami's flagship series, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection does sadly still need work, but it remains the best take on these games available on modern systems. That's all from me today. If you did find this video useful or insightful in any way, feel free to like or subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell for instant notifications as any new video lands. To get a high quality version of this video and many more, check out our Patreon at digitalfoundry.net, and to get in touch directly, you know where to find me. But from me for now, thanks for watching.